Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard brought to you by our sponsor, The Great Game of Business. I'm Loren Feldman, and I'm here with Gene Marks to talk about the things we think business owners should be following this week. Welcome, Gene.
Hello, Loren. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Enjoying the summer and looking forward to talking about small business, baby.
All right, let's do it. Gene, there's been a lot of talk this year about what's been called a mass extinction event for startups. I think the basic idea is that, especially after the failure of Silicon Valley Bank, a lot of funding for startups dried up. And because the basic business model of venture-backed startups is to grow at all costs and not worry about profits, these startups were in big trouble because they don't know how to make a profit and their funding was running out. But you have a different take on it. You're not really buying it. What's your take?
I mean, first of all, there's two worlds of startups that people talk about. There's the venture startups, you know, and then there's like the rest of normal life. And right, these venture startups, we all know the stories.
Yeah, if you open a restaurant, is that a startup?
Yeah, that's a startup. You know, I mean, I'm talking about like venture. That's definitely a startup. I mean, I'm talking about.
But that's not. But you're exactly right. That is not what the world thinks of.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we in the media sometimes, I think, do this. We portray it as if you're not a startup unless you're trying to be a unicorn and raising tons of money.
Right, which is silly. It's just a new business. It's a starting up a business. And you know, when you're a venture capital firm, you start up a new business or you invest in startups, and these are technology firms, and you know, like you said, to become a unicorn. But no, there was like a venture capital funding just fell off a cliff in the last quarter. It's like at 40% of the levels that we're at in 2021, and there's we all know why interest rates have gone up so much, and banking has kind of collapsed in the technology industry, and venture capitalists or one venture capital guy is just like, it's a mass extinction event for startups, you know? And I'm like, dude, you got to be kidding me. I mean, that is so not the case when you look at new businesses. So I dug into it. I mean, the Census Bureau publishes every month, statistics of new business filings. These are people that apply for EINs or, employee identification numbers or employer identification numbers. And I like to, focus on over the past 3 years, since January of 2019, there's been over 20 million new businesses, startups, and those are there's a lot of independent contractors and freelancers and all that kind of stuff, So I like to follow high propensity businesses, they call them. Those are basically businesses that are likely to hire people, So that number's a lot lower, obviously, but it's still really, high as 7 million of them were high propensity businesses. And those numbers are not dropping off.
And what percentage of those do you think are venture backed?
Oh, very few.
Like 2% probably, right?
Yeah, 2%. Yeah, of these 7 million that have new started off. And if you look at, in 2022, there was 1.7 high propensity businesses that were started. In 2021, it was 1.8 million. And in 2023 through May, we're on a track to have another 1.7 million of high propensity businesses start up. These are all new businesses that are coming online that are likely to hire people. None of these are going to be unicorns, I'm assuming, but they're restaurants and retail shops and small manufacturers and service businesses and e-commerce firms and whatnot. So we're still in a great environment for startups, a great environment. I don't believe it annoys me when I see the Biden administration posts thanks to us, we've got so many great startups. And it's not really true. I mean, this has been going on since 2019 and it really blew up during COVID. But it's continuing on. So, for all props to the current administration, I mean, it's certainly not an anti-business climate where people aren't starting up companies, but startups are healthy.
Well, there certainly is some of that activity that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was really a climate bill and which has lots of money aimed at, green energy and things like that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I guess, and there's really been nothing that I've found, and that would be an interesting analysis to do, what new businesses were funded from the Inflation Reduction Act. I actually hope that's not the case. I actually hope that I like to see federal money going to existing businesses as opposed to startups. because, I don't think the federal government is any better at identifying, good startups than anything. Like, for example, like the CHIPS Act, it's like $300 billion is going to chip manufacturers, and the 90 something percent of it is going to existing chip manufacturers,
and
like
some of them are foreign companies.
okay, maybe, but with there's still jobs in the U.S. because they're building
exactly
building in the U.S. But these are like a stat. Like I feel more confident in giving $100 million to Intel to build a chip factory than to some startup guy who says he's going to build the next great.
Well, that's kind of the same point we started with. That's the venture back model.
That is exactly.
One of the things I liked about your piece is I think it kind of makes the point, even a lot of those venture-backed companies might be doing better if they had to make a profit in this environment. And, 100%. Maybe it is a mass extinction event for some of those companies. But if some of them are forced to actually have a real business model, that could be a good thing for them.
I was just talking to somebody just this week about, we're in an environment of elevated inflation. Obviously, it's becoming more in control, and high interest rates, which is going to continue this year. And there's a client of mine, and he was like, these high interest rates, even if it's at 10% to borrow for a business, it forcing us to make smarter decisions, And there's a lot of dumbass decisions that were made by venture capitalists when money was basically free over the past 10 years. And, a lot of money got wasted by doing that. And now you kind of think to yourself, well, maybe venture capital firms will, they've got to think harder before they invest in companies. And like you just said, maybe ask for profits. Can you believe it? As a return from a company.
But that's never going to happen because that's not the venture capital model. They don't care if 9 out of 10 fail so long as one hits it big.
It's true. It's very true, which is why, I've always avoided myself in, investing in a startup because the numbers are so against you. It's like you really have to hit the jackpot, on your first try, because even the venture capital firms, that's all they do for a living. They never, like you just said, for every 20 they invest in, one turns into that big return on investment,
And what really offends me about that is, that's their model. And if that's what they want to do, it's their money. They can do what they want. The shame of it to me is that some of those 9 out of 10 or 19 out of 20 that fail could have been good successful businesses had they had a realistic business model and not bet everything on hypergrowth.
Agreed. They didn't have to scale up so fast. They could have been nurtured easily. They could have been really encouraged or even forced to get financing outside.
They could have been businesses.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I guess the bottom line is the piece. This is in The Guardian I wrote about. It was just this past last week. And, the bottom line of it is that, no, we're not in a mass extinction of startups. Maybe the venture capital people are concerned, but entrepreneurs are starting up businesses at a rapid pace, and I have not seen that decline so far, and that's great news.
All right, next topic. You wrote another piece recently about what you call the new trend in healthcare, health reimbursement accounts. Here's what I like about it. I think business owners have enough to worry about without being responsible for their employees' health insurance. To me, that's just a crazy system. It baffles me that we ever adopted it or that business owners wouldn't be fighting like crazy to get rid of it. This seems to offer another option. Can you explain it to us?
By the way, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm sure we've talked about this in the past, but, as as right of center as I seem to be, I'm a big proponent of national health. To me,
it always surprises me when you tell us that, but you're right. We have talked about that.
Yeah. It just takes that headache away from the business owner, for goodness sake. But okay, it's not going to happen anytime soon. That's for sure. So, HRAs are big. These are health reimbursement accounts. And they are exploding around the country. Their popularity has increased significantly. And I'm finding myself with a lot of clients that are turning to HRAs. And let me give it just a very simple explanation of what it is. So anybody that's listening that's a benefit administrator, don't start shooting at me because I'm not getting into the details. But here's what it is. I have clients that have gotten rid of their health insurance plans altogether. They've just, we're not dealing with negotiating health rates every year, which is a rigged market anyway. And we're not dealing with, I don't want to know our health history of our employees. God knows how many HIPAA violations we're in, God knows, right? They're just saying, I'm out of the health insurance business. we're going to open up an HRA for our employees, which means that whatever we were spending on health insurance, instead of spending it with the health insurance company, we're going to give it to our employees. Here, Loren, you're a great loyal employee of mine, although you could be working a little harder. I'm going to give you, $1,000 a month for your health, insurance, which I was giving you anyway. Here's $1,000 a month. Now, Loren, you go and get your own health insurance, okay? Don't bother me with go and do your thing. Go to the healthcare exchanges, or here's a list of of brokers that we've identified or that we approve of. Go and talk to them, and they'll sell you health insurance, their health insurance as well, or not. You might decide you don't need health insurance because your wife's got health insurance, whatever. But the decision is left to you, and that way, although the employers aren't saving like cash out of pocket, they don't have to negotiate. They don't have administrative time. They don't have the liabilities of knowing your employee's health. So they're just done. They just deposit the money and say, there, you go and do your thing. And I'm seeing a lot of small businesses do that. It's been super popular.
Let me ask you this. When I was at Forbes, we had a health plan there that combined a high deductible health insurance plan with what they called health savings accounts. Are health savings accounts the same thing as health reimbursement accounts?
No, different. That's a great question. So if you have a high deductible plan and you have an HSA or a health savings account, that means that you can put pre-tax money away as an employee into that health savings account up to a certain amount every year. And then you can take it out to pay for the stuff that your health insurance wasn't paying for. Like say you needed, like eyeglasses, or I don't know, in your case, Loren, some type of, psychotherapy,
Yes.
Or acupuncture, something that maybe your health plan isn't covering. You can take the money out and spend it on that. And because it's pre-tax, you didn't get, you're saving money on your taxes because it reduced your income when you put the money away. It's like a 401k for health expenditures. So that's just a health savings account for your employees that they contribute extra money to pay for their covered expenses. And HRA is different. With an HRA, there's no health plan. You're just giving them the money and they're getting their own health insurance. Full stop. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is it pre-tax?
It is. So when I give you $1,000, I get a deduction for it, and your employee does not get taxed on that $1,000. So same thing.
And is there any reason for an employee to put money into that account, or?
So some HRA plans allow employees to contribute to those accounts as well. It depends on the type of HRA plan that you have, but the answer is yes.
Got it. I guess the question I have about this is, as you've referred to many times, the labor shortage goes on. Businesses are still competing for employees. You say a lot of your clients have tried this. How are their employees accepting it? Do they like it, or is it a turnoff?
It's a great question. So first of all, you can have an HRA plan in your existing group insurance plan. So you can certainly give the choice to your employees. And the more that do the HRA thing, the less headaches that you have. So that benefits you. So giving more options to prospective employees or, existing employees to retain them is a good thing. And they can make that choice. But, the HRAs, what I've found is for very small companies. You've got 5 employees or 6 employees and you're like, we don't have a health insurance plan and we don't, pay for health insurance or whatever. You can at least open up that HRA plan. You can have one where your employees can contribute to it. Or you can at least have an HRA plan where you put something away. So, okay, we can't afford to have a health insurance plan for our employees, but we can afford to put X dollars away per employee every year, every month, so that they can go out and buy health insurance. It gives you an answer. So when you're interviewing a prospective employee and they're like, well, what health benefits that you have? You can say to them, oh, we have an HRA plan and we contribute $100 a month per employee or $200 a month, whatever it is. That may not be as great as if you work for Microsoft, but it's still a good answer. And it's something it's part of your overall benefits package. And it's certainly better than saying, sorry, dude, we don't offer any health insurance at all. At least it's something.
And also, you know exactly what it's going to cost. It's not like it can fluctuate all over the place.
It's also another great point because every client I know, when their renewal time comes around, it's like opening that envelope. They have to have a bottle of Jack Daniels right next to them, because you don't know what the increase is going to be in their premiums. Now that's not the case. You decide what you want it to be. I think the biggest to me, I think the biggest challenge that I'm seeing with HRAs is that the health exchanges are so complex. You know, I mean, it's like you have to have like a degree in physics to figure out what healthcare plan is best for you. So I know a lot of companies hire outside consultants to help. I feature in the piece that I wrote. This is on entrepreneur.com. I spoke to the company called Take Command. They're one of these companies that do this kind of stuff. They advise and they help employees navigate the health plan marketplace and choose what's best for them for a fee, obviously, but at least it makes it easier for these guys, to get their health insurance. And there's other companies out there that do that. Because figuring out the health exchanges is not for the faint of heart,
And why a business owner should have to do that, I will never understand.
It's unbelievable. I totally agree. It is unbelievable.
Last topic, you recently wrote about a young man with a lemonade stand. You promised us you were going to write this, and I was eager to see it. I'm curious, did you learn anything from this story, or what attracted you to it?
Yeah, there's a story behind the story. So first of all, it's a water ice business. I think
You're right. I'm sorry.
I might have told you it was a lemonade stand last week. So of course I was wrong. It's a water ice business. Okay. So, this is for the Philly Inquirer. So, as a good journalist, I went and I met with Chase Anderson. He's 8 years old, and his mom in a park in Philadelphia. And, we talked about his business. And let me tell you the story behind the story. Okay. First of all, the kid's awesome. He's been doing it since he's 6 years old. The mom is awesome. She's like an employee at like American Airlines at the Philly airport. She's got the kid's back. She's all over him. She's really great. And, this business has been blowing up. The kid makes like these specialty homemade water ices. He's come up with his own flavors, mango and watermelon and God knows what. And they make it at home. They've had 600 bookings this year alone, Loren. And I'm like, I was trying to do the math.
What's a booking for a water ice? You mean?
Yeah. I'm like, let me do this right. There's only like 350 days, right? Like, I'm like, where's it? What's not working here? I mean, I'm not that great an accountant, but I can at least do that math. And, they sometimes have 3 or 4 events in a day, as many as 10. They go to firehouses, birthday parties, school events, other organizational events, business events.
Is Chase still in school?
So yeah, he is still in school, but they go and they deliver the water ice, and then like the mom hangs around or Chase hangs around to like dole it out or not, So a booking can be where they like just drop off the water ice and leave. It's packed in dry ice and then people do it. Or it could be that they're actually serving out the water ice. It really kind of depends on the booking. But according to her, they're like, they've been super busy. They've been crushing it, which is great. Okay. So good for them. The whole point of this, in the Philly Inquirer, Loren, I cover small businesses every week, but I don't do like profile stuff. It's an advice column. I like to take like an issue like HRAs and interview some local people about some advice for business owners. My angle for this column was, what advice does Chase's mom have for other, moms or dads that have young entrepreneurs, like how to run their businesses? And she said all the right things. You got to support them. They got to be entrepreneurial, help them manage their money, make sure they don't get stressed out or overworked and imbalanced. It was all great stuff. But I was very concerned, Loren, because I'm asking her, did you get this is Philly. Okay. You can't get any more regulated than Philadelphia. Okay. I mean, our city shut down restaurants for months on end when people had the sniffles, but okay.
That was over COVID, Gene. But,
yeah, it was COVID, but
go
they
ahead.
had sniffles too. But so we're in this, it's a highly regulatory thing. And I'm asking her hey, Brianna, did you get permits and licenses? And are you doing, whatever, filing the taxes? Oh yeah. I've got all that. And I'm like, oh, geez. So I was kind of concerned because I'm I called up my editor and I'm I don't want to write this story about this kid. And then the next day, a SWAT team is going to come and cart this kid off to jail and his mom, or fine him $500,000 because they're breaking some laws here. You know what I mean? And she told me, to obviously to talk to the city, which I had planned to do. So I talked to the Deputy Commissioner of Commerce in the city of Philadelphia, who was actually aware of Chase because he was featured on a TV thing a few months ago. And she told me that about a law that I wasn't even aware of, that was passed in 2021 in Pennsylvania, and many states have similar laws. New Jersey has one too, that exempted minor businesses run by minors that are grossing less than $5,000 from any permits or licenses. You know, I mean, this kid's making water ice in his kitchen, you know, Loren. I mean, I don't know what your kitchen looks like, but, you know, right? So, but apparently, he's under that exemption, according to his mom. So he's fine. And it was I was relieved. And that's what, so I wrote the article, and so far as I know, the kid's walking the streets free and clear. But it is something to know if you've got a kid that wants to run a small business. Check with your, local Department of Commerce or Google around. Because if you are concerned about these permits and licenses, because, we always hear about these lemonade stands being shut down, whatever. There's been a trend around the country of states and cities passing laws that allow minors to run little businesses without them getting in trouble with compliance. But you definitely want to check on that. I did the checking on behalf of the mother after the fact.
How do these laws determine if the business is really run by the minor or is actually run by the parents?
Okay, so Loren, I had a bunch of questions for this, the deputy, commissioner, and she basically said, "Well, is this on the record or off the record?" Because she's like, because I asked that same question. I also asked her about how do you know this $5,000? I mean, this kid's got 600 bookings. I don't know. Maybe he's got more.
It's cash business, right?
Yeah, it's cash business. How do you whatever? And what if they start their business saying it's under 5,000 and then midway through they're grossing 10,000? And she's like, "Well, is this on the record or off the record?" So I think you just gotta be, cognizant of the fact that if you don't think that your kid is really running this business as a minor, and if you really think that you're over that 5,000, you really want to try and be in compliance with the permits and the laws. The other thing I also have to say is, again, the woman I spoke to from Philly, his name is Karen Fegley. She was great. She very much, you think about the city of Philadelphia or any local, oh my God, I don't want to talk to these bureaucrats. They're going to kill me. She was great. And she's like, "You got to call us and we will walk you through what you need to do. We're not going to bite you. We want to help you. We think there's a great story. Little kid running his business or any startup business in our city. So, be proactive and reach out to us as a business owner. Departments of commerce in cities and states, they're there to help business. They're commerce departments. So, they're on your side. They really are. And she was right. She was right.
Yeah, the thing I would worry about a little bit, especially with an 8-year-old, is this thing still a joy to the 8-year-old, or is it becoming a burden because it's just too much? Did you get a sense of that at all?
And he pretty happy. Kid was into it. He was really good. And, and his mom's defense, I mean, I interviewed them in the afternoon. He had just gotten back from summer camp. He goes every morning to summer camp. And then in the afternoons, he's selling water ice, and kid seems pretty happy, Good. So it's, if anybody listening here is anywhere near Philly, they do Philly, Jersey, and Atlanta for some reason. But anyway, it's called Da Cooler Boys, BOYZ. And it's him. He gave a shout out to he has a little brother who's got 4 years old, 5 years old, kind of helps him out. It's cool. And good for him. Good for him.
Anything you're working on that we should look for this week?
Yeah, I'm going to write a couple articles on AI this week. 3, actually.
Wow.
And I just finished a piece you'll see coming out about...
Are you having AI write it for you? Is that why you're doing 3?
Yeah, I made a joke about that too. I should just have ChatGPT write these things. But I'm going to do it in the Inquirer and Entrepreneur. And actually, for Forbes this week, I spent a lot of time and wrote a piece about Google, Bard, and Duet, what's out and what's coming and how that's going to impact our businesses.
You wrote about Microsoft's Copilot. This is Google's version, right?
Exactly. And so that's how I'm digging into this. I'm how does this stuff affect small businesses? How does it affect my business? So if you're a Microsoft business, then Microsoft Copilot, you need to be well aware. You and I hopefully will talk about Google, Bard, and Duet.
I'm sure
because there's many people listening to us that are Google businesses, and they need to know that this stuff is coming so they can leverage it.
Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. This episode was brought to you by the Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to help build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thank you, Gene.
Always great to speak with you, Loren. We'll talk to you next week.
My pleasure, Gene. Have a great week, everyone.